My mother's favorite dessert is cheesecake. Every time she comes to Singapore to visit me, I get a full cheesecake and we work our way through it during her visit. My love language is food, so this time I decided to make her a cheesecake at home. Now, I seem to have lost the base of my springform tin, so I'm using a normal 8-inch cake tin. The trick to getting the cheesecake out of this is to butter the pan very well and then almost double line it with baking paper. I'm adding 2 thick strips of baking paper to the bottom to cross each other like this, and then putting the round disc over that and finally lining the sides. The strips on the base act as a support when pulling the cheesecake out of the tin. It stops the cheesecake from breaking in the middle, and it also gives you something to tug at when taking the cheesecake out. Watch till the end to see how easily this pops out, even though this isn't a springform tin that opens up. Keep your prepared baking tin aside and grab a bowl. Pop the digestive biscuits into your bowl and using a rolling pin, pound that baby up until it's nice and crumbly. You can always pop this in a blender and pulse it, but I like doing it like this. It's a nice way to get any pent-up energy out. Plus, you have better control over how fine or not you get that crumb. I like to have little bits of chunky biscuit left in mine for a bit more of a bite. Once you get it to this kind of consistency, then you're good to go. Pour in the melted butter and give it a good mix. Make sure all your digestive crumbs are coated in that butter. Then pour that crumb into your lined baking pan. Using a spoon, start by pushing some of that crumb to the side of the baking pan and building a bit of a wall with it. Use something flat like a measuring cup or a water glass to really push it together so that it sticks and becomes a solid wall on the side of your baking pan. Don't worry if some of it crumbles as you're doing one side. Just keep building it up and it will eventually come together. Do the sides first and then flatten out the base. Keep doing this until you have a solid looking base like this. And then pop this into the freezer to set while you make the cheesecake filling. For the filling, we're using 1 egg yolk along with 4 full eggs. Separate out the egg yolk by carefully pouring the egg between the 2 shells until most of the egg white has separated out. Put the egg yolk along with the rest of the full eggs into a jug and set this aside. Into the bowl of your stand mixer, add in the cream cheese. Always work with room temperature cream cheese. Cold cream cheese doesn't mix and blend as nicely, and you might be left with lumps at the bottom of your bowl. Plus, it's easier to incorporate other ingredients when the cream cheese is at room temperature, which means you won't end up having to overmix your cheesecake batter. To this, add the sugar and corn flour and get this beating with a paddle attachment on a medium speed. Once it has mixed for 2 to 3 minutes or so, and you can see that the mixture is becoming nice and creamy, stop beating and scrape the bowl down. And then beat again for a few more minutes. I generally tend to scrape the bowl down a minimum of 2 times when making either a cake batter or cheesecake. This is just to ensure that there are no lumps of cheese or sugar or even butter left at the bottom of the bowl, and that everything is getting mixed through nice and evenly. And then start to pour in the eggs a little at a time. I prefer cracking all the eggs into a jug, beating with a fork to break it up, and then pouring it into the batter rather than breaking eggs one at a time straight into the batter. No special reason, this is just how I like to do it. When pouring in the eggs, just let the first bit of egg get incorporated into the batter before pouring in more. Keep adding until all the egg has been incorporated in, and you will have this glossy, thick batter. Now go in with the vanilla. Now you can definitely use some vanilla paste or vanilla extracts for this cheesecake, but I had these beautiful vanilla pods that my friend had given me recently, so I used these. Split the pod down the middle and use the back of the knife to just scrape up the vanilla seeds and then add this into the cheesecake batter. Then go in with the sour cream and the juice of half a lemon, and give it one last mix for about a maximum of a minute, just until everything is mixed through. Take the baking pan out of the freezer and put it into another deep baking tray. We are baking this cheesecake in a water bath to ensure that it bakes evenly and to prevent the cheesecake from cracking. Pour the cheesecake batter into the baking pan and give it a quick tap on the table to knock out any air bubbles that might be trapped inside. Then pour boiling hot water around the pan to cover about half the height of the baking pan, and then pop this into the preheated oven and bake for 1.5 hours. Turn the oven off. Keep the oven door open and leave the baked cheesecake in the oven for another 30 to 45 minutes without disturbing. Take it out of the oven and let it cool down completely before wrapping it in cling film and popping this into the fridge to set overnight. I know this seems a little excessive and too much time to wait around to eat that delicious cheesecake, but do these few steps and I promise you, you won't have those horrible cracks and craters on top of your cheesecake. When taking the chilled cheesecake out of the pan, simply release the sides using a knife or spatula and then carefully lift it up using that baking paper we lined the bottom with, and it will come out beautifully without cracking or breaking. One last tip is to heat your knife in a jug of boiling water, wipe it down and then cut into your cold cheesecake. You will get the sharpest, cleanest edges this way. And then just enjoy this homemade baked vanilla cheesecake. It's so creamy in the middle and that biscuit base was perfect. My mother loved it. She even said it was better than the one we usually buy, and I promise you, you will love it too. Follow for more. Bye.